Hello, and welcome back to Spice Up Your English with Professor Wahmiche. This video is a follow-up of the course Didactics and Introduction to Key Concepts Part 2. In this video, we will be taking a look on the first part of didactic components. At first, we have the didactic contract. Didactic contract is a concept introduced by researchers such as Brousseau and Chevallard in 1990s. The didactic contract is described as a system of rules, mostly implicit, that associates students and teachers for a specific piece of knowledge within an educational context. In this infograph, we have about 4 elements of the didactic contract. First is reciprocal obligations. Both students and teachers have reciprocal obligations within the didactic contract. This means that there are expectations and behaviors associated with both parties in the teaching and learning process. Then we have behavioral expectations. The contract outlines the expected behaviors and responses from both teachers and learners. This can include explicit or implicit rules that guide their interactions. Number 3. Focus on abilities, skills, and knowledge. The didactic contract is not limited to teaching strategies, but extends to the exploration of content and the methods of teaching. The primary focus is on students' acquisition of abilities, skills, and knowledge. And lastly, differences from pedagogical contract. The didactic contract is distinguished from the pedagogical contract by its emphasis on content and methods of teaching, with a particular focus on students' acquisition of abilities and knowledge. We will take a look on this scenario as an example. In a science classroom, the didactic contract is understanding experiments. The description says, in a science class, the teacher establishes a didactic contract when introducing a new experiment on chemical reactions. The teacher expects students to follow safety guidelines, record observations, and understand the experiment's underlying principles. However, the students expect clear instructions, guidance when needed, and a chance to explore and learn through the experiment. The teacher outlines the experiment's goals and safety measures, emphasizing importance of precise observations. Students engage actively, following instructions, asking questions, and discussing their observations. The outcome is that both parties fulfill their obligations, the teacher provides guidance and knowledge, while students actively participate and learn from the experiment. The didactic contract facilitates effective learning. In this scenario, the didactic contract shapes the expectations and interactions between the teacher and the student, outlining their roles and responsibilities during the science experiment to ensure effective learning. Number 2. Didactic triangle. The didactic triangle, often attributed to the work of Swiss researcher Jean Piaget, represents a conceptual framework that illustrates the relationship between the learner, the teacher or instructor, and the subject matter or content being taught. It's a way of visualizing the interactions and dynamics within the educational process. Let's take a look at this infograph of the didactic triangle. At the top, we have the subject matter, or content. This corner of the triangle represents the body of the knowledge, curriculum, or subject matter being taught. It encompasses the concepts, information, skills, and ideas that the teacher aims to impart to the learner. And then at the bottom of the triangle, on the left, we have the learner or the student, positioned at one corner of the triangle, representing the individual or group receiving education. This aspect of the triangle emphasizes the learner's role, their characteristics, prior knowledge, learning style, and needs. And then on the right side, we have the teacher or instructor, another corner of the triangle symbolizing the educator or facilitator responsible for guiding the learning process. The teacher's role involves designing instruction, selecting appropriate methods, and supporting learners in acquiring knowledge and skills. The connections between these 3 corners of the triangle indicates the interactions and relationships among them. Teacher to learner. The teacher facilitates learning by selecting appropriate instructional strategies, providing guidance, and supporting the learner in understanding the subject matter. Learner to subject matter. The learner engages with and interacts with the subject matter through activities, exploration, study, and practice to comprehend and internalize the content. And lastly, subject matter to teacher, where the teacher's understanding and presentation of the subject matter influence how it is conveyed to the learner. The teacher's expertise in the content area shapes the learning experiences. Let's consider a basic example of the didactic triangle in language learning context. The learner or student, for example, Maria, a beginner in learning a new language, prefers hands-on activities and practical conversations. For the role in the didactic triangle, Maria is positioned at one corner of the didactic triangle. Her learning style and preferences shape how she engages with the language. For the teacher or instructor, let's say Mr. Rodriguez, a language teacher, understands Maria's preference for practical learning. He designs lessons with conversational activities and real-world situations. Now, the role in the didactic triangle is that Mr. Rodriguez occupies another corner. His expertise in language instruction and choice of interactive methods influence Maria's language learning experience. And lastly, the subject matter. Here, the subject matter is the new language, focusing on vocabulary, grammar, and communication skills. Lessons include practical dialogues and real-life language use. The role in didactic triangle is that the language material occupies the third corner. Its relevance, complexity, and presentation influence how Maria engages with and learns the language. And lastly, the didactic transposition. Didactic transposition, as introduced by Yves Chevallard in Mathematics Education, describes how language is transformed from its origin to be taught in schools. It's the adaptation of complex knowledge to suit non-specialist students, turning scholarly understanding into accessible teachings. This process involves steps like disconnecting the knowledge from its source, shaping it for curriculum goals, and making it usable for learners through textbooks and classroom instruction. Now, there are three types of knowledge involved. Scholarly knowledge, the complex knowledge scientists have differs from what's teachable in schools. Number two is knowledge to be taught. Derived from scholarly knowledge, it's selected and closed to serve educational objectives. And then number three, we have learned knowledge. This is what teachers usually teach, drawing from the knowledge to be taught and other sources like exams and experiences. The process involves two main steps. 1. External transposition. Adapting scholarly knowledge to be taught, creating teaching materials like textbooks, and then internal transposition, which is transforming the knowledge to be taught into actually taught knowledge in classrooms. Teachers adapt resources and methods to match their learners' level and needs. This process involves aligning complex knowledge with educational goals and adapting it for effective classroom teachings. So, in this video, we have seen three didactic components: the didactic contract, didactic triangle, and didactic transposition. In our upcoming video, we're going to take a look on the second part of the didactic components. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so to stay updated with our latest content. Thank you for watching!